Woodbridge Conservation Commission, and it's June 4th, 2026, and we will later be welcoming our new member, Marissa Jacko-Jones, but she is seated right now, and the rest of us, Michael Hirschenberg, Holmesberger, Ann Boucher, Sharon DeCott, and Ben Carlson are here, and we're probably going to have Barbara and Valerie soon. We're going to start our meeting by approval of minutes that occurred in April, and people have had a chance to read them. Does anyone have any, in May, does anyone have any comments?
Nope.
No? Okay, they look pretty good to me. Thank you, Kathy. Shall we have a vote?
Can I ask an information
Yeah,
question, since
sure.
I wasn't at the meeting? Is any part of the West Rock Park actually in Woodbridge? I know we look out over, I've been up there, it looks out over
Yes,
Woodbridge, but
I think
didn't
it
know
is.
if any part comes
The
down.
Merritt area, there's a Merritt Merritt Avenue development that we looked at, and I think the West Rock Trail goes through there.
Okay,
So it's not a lot of it, it's very much on the eastern side of
yeah.
our town, but there's probably some that,
The state park itself is state property, right?
Right.
Not Woodbridge property.
Oh.
yeah. I think it's probably more part of Hamden, maybe? If it had to be geographically located. But he did a good job, and then he gave us a summary of his meeting that we all got that handout, and
Yep.
it sounds like they're doing some good things and acquiring access to the trails, and which is through Woodbridge.
Yeah, so Frank described the West Rock Ridge Advisory Council as made up of members of towns bordering the park.
Okay,
So
got
it's
it.
all that. So
Perfect.
the
And we
state
do
owns
that.
it, and then the towns border it.
Thanks.
Good point. And after that, thought we might have some public comment, but no one is here to, what?
So
To approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, great.
Abstain. Right.
So, we may have a speaker coming in a few minutes. She's not quite here yet. I thought we wouldn't be this far along in the meeting by the time she was going to be here. So let's go to what's happening. The one thing I know of that's happening is there's a walk at the Country Club of Woodbridge that the Land Trust is putting on, and it's connected to walks in many, many other towns where other land trusts are putting on programs. So people are encouraged to go. They'd love it if some people from the Conservation Commission were there. And it starts at 9. Thank you.
I found that outside.
Great, okay. Susmitha was supposed to come a little later than this, so hopefully she'll be here. But she's not, Susmitha is not here yet, but she'll hopefully be here in a little bit. The next thing I have to do is the pleasure of introducing Marissa Jacko-Jones to our commission. We had a nice long talk a week or so ago. Environmental enthusiast, do you want to say anything about how you got to this point? And we'll each introduce ourselves and tell us a little where we got to this point.
Sure. I've been an avid environmentalist since 5th grade, so that is something that's always been a passion of mine, and we are imparting that to our children the best that we can. We moved here about 4 years ago, and we're very proud of the bucolic setting of the town, as well as the esteemed education system, and have a lot of concerns about overdevelopment, not only here but nationwide. And so, we're kind of, I'm here to hopefully strike a balance between, economic growth and conservation, but obviously leaning more toward conservation. And let's see, we've got 3 animals, a dog and 2 cats that are all rescues. We are taking in some factory farm surviving chickens this summer. And I am a PA at Yale New Haven Hospital. I've been in medicine for 21 years, and I work in plastic and reconstructive surgery with a specialty in upper extremity reconstruction. And that's about it. I've got a husband, 2 daughters, and I'm very, very privileged and honored to be a part of this, so thank you for having me.
Oh, well, welcome. Should we each go around and just say
Sure.
hello? Want me to start? Well, I've introduced myself a little bit before. I've lived here for probably 35 years, and I feel really the importance of protecting our planet is key to my self and psyche, and I enjoy doing the little part I can to hopefully contribute to that happening. And I'm also a PA and a naturopathic physician, and I've been practicing for 35 or 40 years, and I'm also glad to be here.
And I'm Ben. We spoke earlier, but so haven't been here for 30 years. I'm relatively new, but I moved around quite a bit, in my early days, and this is really the first place that I would say is a home for me. And I have 2 kids, wife, and a house, and I can't imagine moving anywhere, at least while they're in school. And so I've always been concerned and interested in environmental topics. I had a career in consulting and transitioned out of that just because I was so concerned about environmentalism and that sort of thing. And so I'm kind of back in the tech industry, but this gives me a good outlet to work on those conservation goals. So it's great to have you here, and it's good to have our commission whole again.
Yes, agree with that. Hi, I'm Anne Boucher. I've been here 40 years, but still feel new. But that's another thing now. And have always, like everyone else on the commission, been very interested in the environment and sustainability and that sort of stuff. I'm also on the board at the Massaro Farm, which hopefully you know about. And now that when you were talking about your work experience, I was that person at work who said, "Oh no, here's our 2 bins. This is the one for recycling. And would make sure that everybody was, and we do little games. So I was that person. So
Thank you for being
I think
that
we're
person.
all the
We're all that
same
person.
ilk. Yes.
I'm Mike Hansberger. I've lived in Woodbridge 6 years now with my young family. Grew up outside of Toronto in the Green Belts, which was a kind of a development restricted zone. My house was adjacent to 300 acres of conservation area, and so I've lived the conservation life growing up, and really kind of see the value of preserving the space that we have, but also know that as a town we have choices that we have to make with the limited resources that we have available, and hope to be able to kind of inform those choices with the conservation perspective that I think this commission can provide. And so I'm now no longer the newest member on the commission, so I guess I can no longer claim that, but I still feel like I'm in the fire hose mode of kind of learning all of the different moving pieces that are going on in the town, and it's an honor to kind of to be at the table of kind of being able to have a voice and kind of provide a voice for our town on these issues.
And Valerie, we're all going around. This is our new member, Marissa Jones. And Valerie, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
I'm Valerie King. I've lived in Woodbridge for about 21 years, but initially when I moved here, my life was still in New Haven and in Westville. So probably the last 6 years, I decided to join the Conservation Committee and to get to know a little bit more about Woodbridge. I've met some very nice people. I am not really a trails person, but I stand for my husband. He is an avid trails person. He goes by himself. I wake up, I say, "Where's my husband?" He's on a trail. My daughter has a tracking system, And that's how we find out where he is. He doesn't say goodbye. He just walks out the door, and he has a little stick, and so he does that. So he really enjoys the outside, and I think he lives vicariously through me on this committee. He's very interested, and so I've enjoyed it, and also to learn more about the interactions of how a town works and everything. So welcome.
Thank you.
And we have our 7th member here, Barbara Hagan-Smith, and this is Marisa Jacka-Jones, and you get to tell us a little about yourself as you walk in the door.
This is our living treasure, Barbara Hagan-Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry I'm late. I beeped at Ben as I went by.
It's like, who's that beeping at me?
So, do you want to tell Marisa just a few sentences about yourself?
Oh dear.
Where do we
Oh, dear.
start?
Come from here in Woodbridge. I am retired, but I work at the library, which you recognize. And I am on the board of the Historical Society and this commission. And I am very, 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 very empowered with conservation and all things that grow, etc. Is that enough for me?
It's perfect.
Okay.
Now we have the honor of having our Susmitha come and speak to us. She is you can maybe, Susmitha, tell us your credentials a little better than us. Do you want to sit up there? Or do you want to sit as part of the?
I have some printouts. Do I just pass on
Yeah,
first? and
sure,
sit
just
down?
pass them out. So Smitha's a friend who, when I mentioned some of the zoning issues too, she started talking and I was like, whoa, she knows so much. I was like, we need a little download of this kind of information so that our commission can be most effective. And this is our first selectman.
Oh, he's your first selectman?
He is.
Oh, wow. I thought you were coming to help.
And you're head of the EDC.
He does.
You're head of the EDC, right? Yes. Cliff. Cliff is head of the Economic Development Committee, who's kind enough to come and learn more as well as us.
Thanks. Do you want to come around here? You'll
Yeah.
probably get a handout too. If you see.
Yeah, there's more.
Do I have to talk in the mic like we do in Stratford?
Yes, because people want to hear it in the future.
Hello?
Or being taped.
It's not.
It's not on?
It's not on.
It's on. It's not on.
Oh,
It's on
it is
to
good.
the.
Yeah.
For the recording, okay. We should have these mics. That's my first recommendation. Ours are very loud. So good evening. I am Susmitha Atota. I am the Planning and Zoning Administrator for Stratford. I've been in Stratford for almost 8 years now. I worked as the town planner, and then I got promoted to the Planning and Zoning Administrator last year. Sharon is a good friend of mine. She's one person I can count on even in the middle of the night. If I'm in need of her help, I can just call her and she's available. So when she asked me to come, I'm like more than happy to come and help you all. Although I'm still learning about this housing bill. And Sharon and I were talking about the housing bill, and she said you already passed, and I have a copy of yours, which I think is a pretty decent job. I like the definition of the summary review and the images on the building types that you have incorporated, and the application review process that you have built into your procedures, which I think we might, think of tweaking and using for our own purposes. We haven't adopted Stratford's yet. I requested our commission to continue the hearing, because I had a lot of questions on how this process lays out, because Stratford is a very diverse community and very dense community. So Stratford has about 60,000 people. and we have already established TOD for more than a decade now.
TOD?
Like almost a decade. Like we had a TOD means Transit Oriented District. And so we first had a Transit Oriented District plan developed in 2015. Then we adopted our overlay district in 2016. And as of today, we approved nearly 700 units in our Transit Oriented Development District. And so this statute is asking communities to figure out a way to develop either a bus transit community or a rapid transit community or a transit-oriented development district community, depending on what your situation is, depending on which town you're in. And for Stratford, it's a little unique because their criteria for TOD doesn't match what we already have. So I have shared some maps with you. There is this map on qualifying transit-oriented community, which has a lot of layers on it. It has wetlands layer, coastal boundary, historic districts, FEMA floodplains. So if you look at the statute, HB 8002, the statute says that communities must have a TOD, Transit-Oriented Development District, that excludes all of these. But there's no way Stratford can exclude all of these because our train station is where everything else is, in a half-mile radius. And the way the statute is written is, if you're in a half-mile buffer of that train station, you are eligible to become a qualifying transit-oriented community. So you're eligible to get housing growth plan funds, so for sewers, infrastructure, schools, and other things. So when we drew our half-mile buffer around our already existing TOD, which is the black dotted line on this map, and then overlaid all these layers, we see that we have a bunch of tiny parcels here. Like, if you look at the size of these parcels, I mean, they're asking us to adopt, whoever is, adopting the qualifying TOC, as we call it, transit-oriented community, must allow 2 to 9 unit transit middle housing developments in this zone. And if you pick any parcel here, you can't even build more than 1 unit based on the underlying zone. So now I requested our commission to continue so that I can have more conversation with our attorneys on this. And we were discussing this, and we also saw that Fairfield recommended a minimum size of 1 acre in the TOC for anybody who wants to do 2 to 9 units. Now, I don't know if we would go as far as recommending the acreage size, but I am thinking that my suggestion to the commission would be to allow transit middle community housing on these parcels, as long as they are, can provide those 2 to 9 units compliant with the underlying zone standards. So, and allowing them to consolidate lots if needed. So if somebody wants to combine lots and do 2 to 9 units, have the necessary setbacks and coverage and everything, then I think it should be okay, because it's within the train station area. So that's my idea of how this should work, because you cannot just say blanket, anybody can do 2 to 9 units anywhere. Then you would have a lot of issues, because first things first, they would all need variances. And the summary bill says you can't have variance, you should allow them as of right or as a summary review, which kind of defeats the purpose. So, but it's so generally written that we are trying to define the nuts and bolts here so that the process works fair for everyone. And then we also, looked at the option of bus transit community, which means, if you have a half-mile buffer around the bus routes, then you can propose transit middle housing. But which bus route should we pick? We have a lot of bus routes that are functioning, and so I just, overlaid a few bus routes near our TOD, and we had this buffer created, but I think, it doesn't serve any purpose for Stratford. Plus, I don't think it helps to, avail those housing growth funds. If you want to avail those housing growth funds, I think the option was TOC in the bill. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpreted it. So I just shared this map with the commission so they understand what their choices are, and I told them it's they who have to decide what they want to do, and these are the choices you have. So my commission asked me, can you just give us a summary of what is absolutely required to be adopted versus what is optional? And I created a summary document, but then I also found this slideshow by CCM. Maybe you might have gone to a CCM event where municipal officials often go, but in this document, they kind of highlighted on every slide which one is an optional requirement versus which is a mandatory requirement. So I can share this by email with Sharon so she can share with all. Basically, the two most important things are the transmittal housing. So if you adopt a transmittal housing zone, you allow those 2 to 9 units, then each unit that you approve in that transmittal housing zone would be eligible for 2 housing unit equivalent points. So that would kind of help you with your 830G, status, whatever you're trying to claim for your 10%. The second part is that they say all commercial zones should be mixed-use zones or transmittal housing. You can choose what you want to do. So Stratford, I don't know if you've ever visited Stratford, but we have this Barnum Avenue, which is a very robust commercial corridor. It's all the way from Bridgeport Avenue to Boston Post Road. And my biggest fear is that if we did allow transmittal housing as opposed to mixed use, then 2 to 9 units means anything under 16 units you don't require parking. And if retail is struggling, and if somebody goes vacant, they can convert it into housing, and that probably would hurt us in the long term. So I was like, let's go choose the mixed use option, because the mixed use option would allow us to enable the developers to build within the existing zone standards. So they cannot tweak any standards or for the parking or anything else for the retail component of it. But if you're building over the retail, anything under 16, you don't require parking. But again, if you think about this, that corridor there is a very high functioning corridor. You have bus line there. And even if you don't have parking, my assumption is that some of these retail users office users close after a certain time, or are not as busy after a certain period of time. So when the residents go to work, the parking is used by retail, and then when the residents come back, maybe the residents can use that parking if needed. And then if I look at the parcel sizes and scale, I think most of the parcels in that corridor, the commercial industrial parcels, you cannot build more than 16 units unless you have a big site, because our height restriction is about 30 feet. And so you can only go up to 3 stories. The ground floor is retail, so you can only go 2 stories up. So if you do the math, depending on what type of units you want to provide, if you want a 1,000 square foot unit or a studio, I don't think we get more than 16 units on top for most of these retail parcels. So I suggested that could be a better option for us. And if you look at the TOD map with the zoning on it, so we have our train station, and then we have all the zones overlaid here. We have all the purples is MA, which is industrial zone. All the reds are commercial zone, and the pink is also commercial, but it's more like office and finance, limited business district kind of a thing. So again, like this is our TOD. I'm only looking at our TOD right now, but mixed use is allowed throughout Stratford, wherever there's commercial industrial. Right now, my focus is just still on TOD, but if you look at it, all these commercial parcels, you can do mixed use. All the residential parcels, you can do 2 to 9 units by summary review. And we also have our TOD district. which is an existing TOD district, which is by special permit, we allow the developments to happen, not by summary review. So I asked our attorneys, how can we, and again, I'll come to the second part of it, which is like the statute says anything 10 or more units, 30% of those units must be deed restricted pursuant to 8-30G. Now, if you read the 8-30G statute, the statute says you have to demonstrate public health, safety, and environmental impacts. That cannot be demonstrated through only summary review. That is a public hearing process, 830G. So, I mean, we are conflicting with the statutory mandate here. So I asked my attorneys, they said, well, we will stick to our existing processes when it comes to 830Gs. And because we have to demonstrate public health safety, especially for us, as you can see, we have floodplains there. And, we have historic districts in some places where, historic district commission review is required. And we have inland wetlands that, inland wetland commission review is required. If you read the statute says inland wetland commission recommendation is still needed and has to be incorporated. And my question is, how can I incorporate inland wetland commission's recommendation into a summary review process? Because a summary review process is an administrative process, whereas inland wetland commission's recommendation is incorporated into a public hearing process. So it's just, apples and oranges here. And our direction we are leading to is like we would still stick to the existing processes where required to demonstrate public health, safety, and environmental impacts. And most communities and most planners in the state are now leading towards that direction because they're like, obviously we have to defend ourselves someday with the decisions we make, but we have to protect public health, safety, and welfare. And that's the most important goal. So that's the only way we can do it because of the impacts we will see. The other thing is I have a map that shows all our commercial industrial zones in the town. So this is a little tricky because anything below I-95, like it cuts through almost 1/3 of the town, the southern part over here, all this area. That is a limit of moderate wave action zone for us as identified by Connecticut DEEP, which means any structure that is built in that zone has to be elevated above a certain feet. So if somebody is knocking down an existing retail and if somebody wants to put a new retail, they have to abide by the FEMA floodplain standards and the LIMWA standards, as we call. And then that would change if they were to do mixed use on that. The height that can be allowed over there probably, might not, match what our underlying zone is allowing us to do, and that may need a variance. And I referred all of these, the changes that I was suggesting to Zoning Commission, my initial draft to DEEP. Connecticut DEEP gave us a recommendation saying that they disagree with the housing bill and they would like to see coastal site plan reviews be held the way they are held by demonstrating impacts, and they want to make sure that there are no adverse impacts. So that's another thing too, like you have to follow what Connecticut DEEP says in these parcels. So we're just going with the existing processes where we can. We haven't fully written our final draft yet because it's still pretty vague. But based on what you're seeing, there's so many things that are conflicting that we have to create our own process of how we make sure that we are uniformly applying this standard to all properties in the town. The other thing is they say in the statute, less than 16 unit developments don't require parking anywhere in the town. So I had a question, what if it's a 20 unit building? Does that mean that 16 units don't have parking and that only you have to provide for 4 units? Or does that mean that you have to provide parking for those 20 units as long as it's strictly 16 units? No clarity there, so we don't know. And we would still require a parking needs assessment that, shows that there is no adverse impact to public health and safety. And the commission should be probably denying those applications that are not complying with public health and safety. So again, like, I had a bunch of questions on, like, I pulled apart the whole, the statute, and I was asking more and more questions. What happens to ADUs? Accessory dwelling units are allowed as of right in a TOC as long as if the property owner has been living there for more than 3 years. But what if it's a historic property? We have a historic district boundary there. And what if it's an ADU on a historic property that is visible from the street and right now requires a historic district commission's review? How do we incorporate that into this process? Again, the same direction. We will go with the existing process. We will refer it to historic district commission. And then, we have to somehow create a process where we can incorporate those recommendations. Another catch to our Stratford, which is unique, is that we refer all applications that come before our land use boards for commercial properties. Commercial is defined by our fire code as 3 or more units to the architectural review board. And those recommendations are discretionary, they're advisory, but the zoning commission has the discretion to pick which ones are applicable to those properties. And if you come to Stratford one day, I can show you, we have quite a few properties that adopted these ARB recommendations and look far more aesthetic than they could have been, than they would have been. But now, my biggest question is, how can we refer these to ARB? And what about 2 to 9 units? Should we start referring every single development to ARB? How would it be embedded into the summary review process? And if there is no public hearing, how can a zoning commission pick and choose which ones to apply for this property? So again, no clarity there. Still thinking about it on how we can just, create this process. They also had in the TOC requirements, TOC is the transit-oriented community. If you're having a 10-unit or more development, 10% of units shall be high opportunity heating market-based, 10% are high opportunity cooling market-based, and 5% are low opportunity heating market-based or something. First of all, these markets are subject to change annually, depending on how the housing market is. And nobody knows what a heating market is. And we don't have a housing staff on board that kind of tracks where is the market and how can we, I don't know how to enforce this at all. I seriously don't know how to enforce this regulation as a zoning administrator. And I don't know. It says as determined by Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, but it doesn't say which year, what time frame. So if you approved something this year and it's built 2 years later, is it still applicable? I don't know. I have no idea what they're doing here. And then currently we require some set-aside percentage for workforce housing in our TOD zone. Like we require I think 20% at workforce or 10% deed restricted if you are proposing a TOD in our TOD zone. Now, can we still require that in a TOC? Because the 10% or more units, 10 or more units now require 30% set aside. The biggest complaint I've been receiving from our developers is that it's financially not feasible for them. They would rather do the 20% AMI, which is at 20% workforce housing, which is at 80% state median income or area median income, whichever is lower. So by restricting them to having to do now all developments, all TODs as 830Gs, I don't know how the finance of that would work, because there have been situations in the past when developers would come and say, it's not financially feasible for us. And then they say developments on municipal land, public housing authority land, owned land, nonprofit owned land, all these religious organization owned land, they're all allowed in the TOC as of right. But there's a process for developments on municipal land, which is called 8-24 review process. It's a municipal improvements process that goes the process is that the council refers it to the planning commission reviews and gives a recommendation and goes back to council, and then, you make improvements to municipal land. So in this case, when you're saying as of right, what about the process of 824? So we are under the assumption that we would still follow our existing processes for 824 for municipal land. And how can we ensure, and they've had some income restrictions for religious organization-owned lands, but how can we ensure that those income restrictions are in place for the life of the property? How can we monitor this? Who is monitoring these? That today they get an approval for 60% or 80%, but when they're built, somebody's actually, if they sell it to somebody else or somebody else, rents those, how are we monitoring these deed restrictions? We don't know. And then the conversions of residential or commercial developments on any lot in a TOD. So what happens to historic district conversions? Historic district conversions require a totally different process again. And so there's a lot of ambiguity in the statute, and a lot of us are in the same boat. I mean, I'm not to rip it apart and say I don't know everything, but each community is, in the same zone where we are all trying to see what we can do. And they do have some optional requirements. If you want to develop a priority housing development zone, you have to get a secretary's approval to do that. So you can't do that by July 1st, if you want to adopt it by July 1st. And then they also have these conservation traffic mitigation districts that you can adopt, where you can actually require parking for those 1 to 16 unit developments if needed. But again, that's optional, and we don't know what the impacts would be, even if we required parking and allowed 16 units as of right. So we are not going towards anything that is optional right now. We're just going to adopt whatever is required and just stick to the bare bones at this time. So there are places where payment in lieu of parking is probably applicable or beneficial. Like there are some places like that are very dense. But my biggest concern is anything related to finance, it should be the council, not the zoning commission. The zoning commission cannot determine where funding goes and how funding is implemented, and it should be through the town council or the respective financial bodies. So again, that's something I have no interest in recommending to my commission because it's an optional requirement. It's a lot of things we are still trying to figure out, but I did like your architectural guidelines for those, duplexes and perfect sixes and all that. So I was going to see if we can do similar renderings for our regulations that we can incorporate. We do have a commercial design guidelines that our architectural review board follows. So I'm going to probably recommend them to adopt some of these guidelines into that and advise that we should follow the same. And one thing additionally that I was suggesting to my commission that is not part of the statutes is to allow shared parking compatible by analyzing compatible peak parking demand, so that like today, if the town hall is after 6 empty and somebody is having a high density development across the street and they're not providing as much parking, then maybe they can use this parking in the later part of the day. And they also say that these high-density developments in the TOC can provide the lesser of the parking that is required based on their own parking needs assessment and what is required by town regulations. So I'm pretty sure any developer would like to come and say, I need more parking because he wants to maximize development on the land. So at the very least, having this in place would help us to, pick up some of those parking spots where needed after work. That's all I have. I think there's a lot of other questions, but I don't want to waste too much of your time, but there's a lot going on here, and still trying to figure out answers. Yes.
I think you're absolutely correct in the sense of a lot of it's ambiguous.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of questions being asked to the state to see exactly how we can clarify it. But in the meantime, folks are trying to do what they feel is the best they can do in the timeframes provided.
Yeah, and my personal sense is every community is unique, and you cannot have a one-size-fit-all approach.
Very much
So, like I said, our TOD has everything that you don't want us to have. So, but we can't move the train station. So we're having to deal with what we have, and so you cannot just say, do everything as of right. Then, you know, it conflicts with the other statutes like 830G, MS4 permit, inland wetlands regulations, coastal reviews, and everything else that we have to abide by.
What is Stratford's experience with 830Gs at this point?
So at the moment, the current rate is 6.4%. 830Gs, you know, we have approved 700 units, but so far only half of them have been built. And the remaining half, they're, you know, I don't know what the status is with those. We don't get a lot of 830Gs in our town center, because that's a hot market, and that's where developers don't want to do anything. So we mostly get it in those areas where we don't want them to, like in our flood zones or inland wetland zones or conservation zones. So the same situation as any other community that has constraints environmentally. Very rarely we get on a transit corridor or in the middle of the town.
Are you working with with David Corus?
I know of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I met him and all, but I haven't worked with him directly.
Got it.
Yeah. But Stratford is a CMDA community.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susmita.
Sure.
Very, very helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
And those flowers are for you.
Beautiful. You didn't have to do it. Thank you so much.
Do you mind if we ask a question?
No?
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So in the last TPZ meeting, I heard the last month's TPZ meeting, our town planner and the town lawyer both said that in commercial districts where there's by right, 2 to 9 units, we're not allowed to require affordable housing, but we can, encourage it in some way. So I'm just wondering, is that the view that you have as well? And if so, do you have any ideas, or did you discuss any ways to encourage more affordable housing in those areas?
So in your commercial zones, if you're choosing the 2 to 9 unit option and not the mixed use option, it's the transit middle community housing zone. So the requirement is not for affordable housing for 2 to 9 units. Anything 10 or more units is affordable housing there. And they're right, 2 to 9 units is just middle community housing. As of right, units like cottage clusters, perfect sixes, duplexes, 3-family homes. Yeah.
And have you heard of any strategies for if we're dealing with that sort of housing? Are there strategies to encourage developers to make some of those units affordable?
I think they won't make a lot of profit on that. We've had a situation where somebody converted an existing building to a 6-unit development, and they had to, based on our statutes, our regulations, they had to provide 2 units as workforce, not even affordable. And they're like, you're not making any money out of this on a 9-unit scale. Financially, they would need more density to make that work as an affordable housing, because affordable housing means you need to have 30% of the units deed restricted, of which 15% cater to 60% of AMI or state median income, whichever is less for the households, and the remaining for 80%. So that level, like for Stratford, if you look at the state median income, we are at $125,000. Our area median income is about $148,000. So we pick the state median income based on the statutes. So based on that estimate, a workforce housing unit, a studio, you would be renting at $1,400 at 80%. So if you had to rent that at 60%, you go further down. So you're not making any financially, a good profit on that for a developer. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason they said that is because they want to provide some market rate units, because there is a shortage of housing for all demographics according to their analysis. So in that, you'd secure the housing unit equivalent points, that's all, if you do the 2 to 9 units.
That's important. Would you mind just going over that real quick in terms of the points? Because that's,
Yeah.
for a town like us, that's the strategy that we need to follow, and certainly the strategy that I'm engaged in at this point in time.
So I heard about 2 points. I have to confirm if that is correct. But I had a sheet, a summary sheet on housing unit equivalent points. I will email that to Sharon, and that shows everything. So if you're providing market rate housing, and you're deed restricting 30% of those market rate units, then you get the points. Otherwise, any housing you're providing, it has to be based on income thresholds, and then you get points. Or if you're in a transit middle community housing zone, as of right, and you have adopted that zone and allowing transit middle community housing, then you get points. But you don't get points just because you're allowing market rate housing everywhere. Because that defeats the purpose of 830G. But I have a sheet from the statutes. My commission also was confused because the developers keep coming and saying, you get points for this, and you don't get points for it. They're just told that you get points for this, and nobody knows whether you get points for this or not. So we wanted to keep that sheet handy to understand. And I saw that Fairfield has a summary sheet for each development where they kind of, list how many units at what % of income, how many points are we getting, and that's in the zoning file. So everybody is more clear that this development, you're getting these many points, and you're not actually saying something that you're not getting points for. And you can confirm with DOH on that too, when you get a development request, whether you actually would get points for this or not.
Smitha, are you noticing, and you had indicated you got 750 additional units on the books, about half of them are built. Are you noticing anything with regard to school-aged children associated with that? The trends?
No, I think based on what we approved, the construction activity has picked up only recently because, 2016 we adopted TOD, and 2017 applications started coming in. Then we had COVID slump from 2020 onwards to 2022 or 23. So the construction picked up only in the last 3 years. Most of these units are for, studios and 1-bedrooms, so they're on our commercial corridor, so not many school children in that.
I have a few questions. Have you heard of the Golden Girls rule that just was adopted, where you're allowed to rent out rooms in your house? And how does that coincide with affordable housing, and can we get points with that? I think this is something fairly new.
No,
where
I
we're
don't know
allowed to-
about that.
Never heard about that. Okay.
Maybe they're talking about short-term rentals? Is that what?
No, they're talking about allowing, people are already doing it, renting out rooms in their house, and how that can be construed as affordable, and that maybe we can get points for that.
I'm
Called
not
the
aware
Golden
of that.
Girls, something fairly new. My second question is, and I was, do you know where the information is about Chaffa financed homes? Because that also can give you a point if the houses are.
So our
mortgage
state
rich.
DOH director, he is very accessible. I have found that I email him and I get a response right away.
Who was that? I didn't know.
Mike Santoro, Department of Housing. So
Oh.
you can just email him and he will put you in touch with whoever you want to talk to about the Chaffa housing.
It works toward, and we've talked to Mike and to the OH in regard that it works toward the total number of your stock. For example, our number is 1.14, about 1.14, 1.17 in terms of total number of affordable. And that's total, and that includes HUD, Chaffa, and and anything that's under market rate to the point of being considered affordable. However, those units don't apply toward any point type arrangement for 830G. So,
Why? I thought they did.
no, if they're not, because it has to count toward, correct me if I'm wrong, to count toward the HUE points, it has to be deed restricted. And if it's,
That's correct.
if it's not deed restricted, then it doesn't count toward that, your points for 830G.
And then my last question is, if the developer comes in with market rates and they say, well, if you don't do that, we're gonna do an 830G. For them to say that, what's the process after that? Can they automatically just go 830G, or is there a summary, some other thing that has to happen, or can the town intercede?
So you say after approval, if they want to go back and do that same
No,
development?
if they come in and the town says no for whatever reason, inland wetland, and then they're saying, well, if I don't get this, I'm going to apply for the 830G.
They
Can-
can apply for 830G. They have, they're allowed by statutes, but they have to demonstrate no public health, environmental, and
Do
safety
they have to
impacts.
just demonstrate that, or does the town have to demonstrate that would impose?
So they would demonstrate that, but the town has a third-party reviewer who will confirm if their numbers are right, their analysis is right, and they're required to provide an affordability plan that has to be filed on the land records, and they're required to deed restrict these homes as promised, and they won't get a certificate of occupancy unless they deed restrict, and that's possibly a condition of approval that should be in the zoning commission's recommendation if it is approved as an 830G. And if the inland wetlands gave them a negative recommendation, I'm assuming there's environmental impacts. So they probably have to have some kind of analysis to show there's no impact. And if that doesn't get settled, then it goes to the court.
Goes to court, you said?
Yeah.
Oh,
What they need to do for a non-830G is what, from an inland wetland standpoint, is the same as what they do for an 830G application. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's some processes that have been in place for many, many years and seem to have worked. I would not throw away those processes as much as possible, because then there's damage to the community, because you want, you don't want to be ending up in a situation 5 years down the lane thinking about how much you ruined your environment, or, how somebody couldn't survive a flooding because you allowed something as of right and didn't look at the impacts.
Good point.
that's
Well,
actually.
maybe it might end up in court, and the courts may decide based on what is in the record, because the statute is so vaguely written right now.
Thank
Any
you.
other
Thank
questions?
you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great.
Thank you for the flowers. You didn't have to do that.
My pleasure.
Tis the season.
Beautiful.
Why don't we take a 1-minute break? Thank you. on the, continuing on with old business, and the first, item on old business is hearing about the, program on May 30th that Valerie was involved, so. did it create-
Well, I wrote something up.
Oh, good.
And this can be used for our conservation website that we have up and running. And also I may submit it, if it's okay, to the newspaper, our Woodbridge Town. So it was regarding the event on May 30th. So it was an interesting event. We had about 20 people. Some people came from the library with their children. But when we talked about it, people were just so astounded that they said, where did you get this idea from? And did you copy it from somebody else? We said, no, it was inspired by Tim Austin, and we received a grant for $10,000. I just spoke about how this whole thing originated. And Marissa, so do you mind if I recap for Marissa a little bit?
Well, would it be involved when you read this? Would that be the recap?
Yeah, you can read that. Yes, yes. In fact,
Do you want to read
it's.
it to us, or do you want to?
Oh, if you want me to read it to you, okay. Woodbridge has always been revered for its numerous trails. So when Connecticut's Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, offered towns the opportunity to receive a grant to enhance some of their trails in 2024, Woodbridge's Conservation Committee applied, but their application would differ from the scores of other applicants. 8 months earlier, Tim Austin, the then chairperson of the Conservation Committee, had an idea. An avid trails person with a keen interest in history, Tim sought to couple his two interests, trails and history. What culminated was an interactive educational trail experience complete with QR technology and narratives about indigenous tribes, a mysterious character called the Leathermen, the revered Darling House, and other previously unknown bits of historical information. Woodbridge was one of only 2 educational grants submitted, and the Conservation Committee took aim at the opportunity to promote some of the lesser utilized types of learning, kinetic and tactile. Basically, the trail would turn into an immersive learning experience, and as one would hike, they would have the opportunity to read a QR scan which would depict a specific historical site. The members of the Conservation Committee at that time were Sharon DeCat, Barbara Hagen-Smith, Valerie Holly King, Diane Berkery, Paul Harrigan, and Tim Austin. On one trail, the hiker could learn of the stone serpent, which was created hundreds of years ago by the Pocasset tribe. But instead of reading about the stone serpent, they are able to witness not only this artistic treasure, but the environment in which the Pocasset subsisted. On another trail, the hiker would learn that the first matchstick was created by an individual who resided in Woodbridge. Still, others can learn about Woodbridge's use of charcoal mounds, an early technique of creating fuel for the nearby factories, an era predating the boom in coal production. While the Conservation Committee has basically finished the implementation of the QR scans, they are on the final stage of marketing and promoting the 14 historical sites. There's also a patch that can be attained once an individual has demonstrated proof that they have visited the sites in their entirety. On May 30th, 2026, the Conservation Committee, current members Sharon DeCat, Ben Carlson, Barbara Hagen-Smith, Valerie Holly King, Ann Boucher, Michael Hansberger, I'm going to add Marissa, organized an event at the Woodbridge Town Library so that more people could learn about the Woodbridge trails and the educational grant awarded by DEEP. This event was accompanied by a drum circle, which allowed for a fun day in community.
Wow,
Very good.
great, nice.
Thank you, Jen.
We'll put you in charge of publicity.
No, I'm sorry.
So congratulations, Casella, you were the one who really kept that moving and you did a lot. And the only thing I might add is, as well as Tim Austin, Barbara was very instrumental in this onset of the whole thing. Don't you think?
My name is in there.
Never enough, Barbara.
But yeah, I would definitely try to put this in, publish this somewhere. The Sheila's paper as a community voices or something like that, I think that'd be great. And just, include
Maybe on our
include a
website,
link
can
to
you-
the,
Can you help
to the,
get-
what's that?
Can you help it get on our conservation commission?
Yeah, we could put it up there too.
Yeah, we put it there, and I have some photos of the drum circle.
Yeah, that'd be
So we have-
fun.
now we have
Oh, that'd be
photos,
great.
and then also the Woodbridge Town News, if they would do that, so.
Great.
It was a very fun time.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was
That's
great
great.
fun. And, I think, Ben, have you put up the listing and the maps?
I haven't yet. Okay. I will. I just need to send an email.
That's Tim Austin, right?
That's it? And he's running around the corner.
Yeah. Go find him.
Oh,
I think he's in the bathroom, right?
Right in the bathroom.
We'll bring him in.
yeah.
So, Mike, did you go to the hike on May 30th?
Yes.
And how did that go?
It was fantastic. So Eric Hansen is the forester that has been employed by the Woodbridge Land Trust to head up the experimental plots in Alice Newton Street
Park,
Park. I think there's another word in there. There's always another word.
Memorial.
Yes, there we go. And so he gave a tour, kind of talking about the ecological science that was kind of driving the design of the different plots, and pointing out some of the different features, and also just kind of, most of these actions were taken last fall and last winter, and so it was fascinating to kind of watch him almost in real time looking at the trees and saying, oh, we chose to spare that tree because it was a beautiful beech tree that last year was looking really healthy. This year it's not looking so hot.
Oh.
So we're going to keep an eye on that, and kind of watching his real-time process of this longitudinal experiment that is taking place in our forest. And it was really cool to kind of go from that and then go right into the library for this launch of the patch program, and just kind of seeing how, I don't know if other towns in our region are doing this kind of work, but I think that we should be really proud of the innovation, of the science, of the history, of the conservation that Woodbridge is putting forward, because we're not just talking about it. We're being really active both in the science and the communication and the community building around our open spaces. So
Great.
that's
And that leads
Thank you.
right into our next topic, which
So
is.
can I-
Oh,
Before we
Yeah,
go
yeah,
into there,
Please.
I'm curious because this is also relevant to the resilient forest grants that we're looking at getting,
That's our
and because
next
we're going to
topic.
do very similar things.
yeah.
And so I'm wondering if he talked about kind of public perception, or there is tree clearing and stuff, and so
Yeah.
how do they approach that? And
There was a lot of talk about, especially in this location, and then if we were to pursue this in Fitzgerald, it will be equally as prominent, if not more so. These are very popular spots. They get a lot of foot traffic, and the signing that the Woodbridge Trust has undergone. So there's also representatives there from, I forget the name of the organization, but it's a regional land trust organization that represents land trusts around the state. And they're planning on getting the templates for the signs that the Woodbridge Land Trust used, because there has been zero complaints. The signing was put up well in advance of any actual tree clearing that was done, or trail closings, which obviously when they were felling trees, they were closing trails. And so from his perspective, the signing that was done in Alice Newton was incredibly effective and should be considered best practice.
it's great. I mean, that's great that they've sort of forged that path and created a template that
Yeah.
we can use.
Especially on a local
Mhm.
level. So
Yep.
if we were to undergo similar action in the Fitzgerald property, and were to kind of use a similar template of signing, then kind of I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that the population who are walking in Alice Newton and the population who are walking in, there's a Venn diagram
Yeah.
of heavy overlap there.
Definitely.
So we should definitely kind of use the successes that they've.
Just move their signs over.
Yeah, we'll borrow their sign.
Can we rent those? Did you get a sense that the biology that they were hoping for was actually effective, or are they a little bit like, this is new and we're not sure? Or it's too early to
We're
tell?
8 months in, so
Yeah.
trees are a slow growing species, but there's definitely some signs of regeneration. There's a lot of undergrowth that they were seeing that
Oh, great.
was establishing. And there's some really interesting plots where they had done deer fencing, a very intentional deer fencing plot beside a non-deer fencing plot, so that they could look at how much of the deer grazing is impacting that kind of understory development. So
Was it noticeable? Could you tell, or not really?
yeah,
Maybe? Okay.
It's a forest, so there's variability everywhere. So it's easy to kind of say, oh, that variability must be due to the fence that's around it. But I think at this point it's too hard to tell.
Okay. That leads us right into our next topic, which is update concerning deep forest resiliency grant regarding the Country Club of Woodbridge and the Fitzgerald property. So Ben, do you want to give
Sure,
us some
I
insight?
can just sort of do a quick review and give an update. So DEEP is going to soon release a grant application for resilient forestry grants. So basically you can do different forestry practices on properties in your town, and they'll give up to $150,000 per site. And so we're looking at applying for 2 different sites. And so there's been sort of a long process to get to where we are. Where we are right now is we have contacted a forester, actually the same forester that did Alice Newton, because he did such a good job, about getting us some estimates for doing those forestry practices. And those estimates then need to go into the grant application. And so we actually just had to get some approvals from Town Hall, and we're trying to move forward with the next meeting and trying to get him started to work to get those estimates. And so looking forward, I have not heard. So they said DEEP said they're gonna release it June 15th. So if they're on schedule, it'll be released in about 10 days. That's when the application comes out. And then it said, the very hazy timeline we got said it was going to be due sometime in August. So we don't have a date yet, but hopefully there will soon be more information forthcoming about
By our
that.
next meeting, for sure.
Yep.
Fast work.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're trying to move quickly on this stuff that we have to get together before we actually submit the grant.
Any questions on that? Because Ben, you're on the next one, nesting boxes.
Oh, okay. So that's also one that is now moving forward. So the Audubon Society has donated 10 nesting boxes for bluebirds and tree swallows, I think. And so basically they've donated those, and we had to get a work crew together to actually build them, to put them up, which we're working on, and then we have to get some materials because we have to get poles and some predator guards and stuff like that. And then we also had to get approval from Town Hall as well, and so we've got that approval. So we're going to put those up in 3 different sites. And so where we are right now is the Audubon Society gave me a very helpful list with links where I can purchase things at Lowe's. So I need to buy those and then find out where to ship it, and then to get it to the crew that's going to put it up, and then we have to make a date to actually put it up. So that's kind of where we are now.
And what are the 3 sites that we're installing the boxes at?
So the Fitzgerald property, the Country Club of Woodbridge, and then that site down by the Darling House. Yep.
And is there any effort to have volunteers participate in this?
Yeah,
Any
so-
building and,
We'd love it.
So-
you know,
Yeah, so we'd love it. So I've been in contact with Andy Danzig,
Good.
who said that his trail crew would be a great, group of people to put that together.
Sure
But anybody who wants to participate is more than welcome.
Go for it, Mika.
I have a drill.
The next thing is Voice, which is something that's an evolving program that has been very well laid out, where 2 students from high school are going to be selected. Mika may have some more details about this than I do. And their applications are either going to be decided by people at school who get them and administrators there, or by me. And then they'll come to meetings, they'll get a training, they'll get freedom of information training, we're going to give them information about acronyms and thoughts, and we're going to include them in discussions and educate them and listen to their thoughts. They're not going to be voting members, and they'll probably be here for the whole year, starting in like September. And I'm looking forward to their perspective, because they're the ones who are going to be tending the earth for a long time. So that's what I know so far, and I'll know more by next month.
So
Voices of Youth Civic Engagement, VOYCE.
So they're applying right now internally, and then they'll be joining us in September at the
Right,
start of the
they'll get some
next
training
academic year.
between now and then, is my understanding, and we'll
Perfect.
welcome them in September.
That's great.
If they want to come sit in before then, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
It'd be great to, before they come, kind of brainstorm some things to get them involved with certain
Yeah.
projects, so we had those 2 high school students who kind of sat in last time, but I always
few
felt
years
like they probably would have enjoyed it even more if we had sort of involved them with something.
Uh-huh.
So it's something to think about before they get
Good
here in
idea.
September.
That was a one-time.
No, they came a few times. I think they were.
I know they wanted to kind of join us, and they were very interested, but they were kind of at the edge of leaving
Right.
Mhm.
because they were seniors and they really didn't get time to get it
Yeah.
together.
Kind of wasn't an official program at the time, but yeah, it'd be great to sort of get the new members involved.
Yeah, okay, well, we can brainstorm that with them
Mhm.
and before they come.
Mhm.
Friends of Conservation Commission, I don't think much has happened with that. Ann, do you have the list of people?
I do, and it's like 35 or 36 names, I believe, and actually I shared it with Valerie so that she could.
Oh, great.
So those people were emailed about the event.
Okay. Well, why don't we give
at the
Kathy
library.
that as so that if we ever need it, we can get it
Yep.
from you. Is that okay, Kathy? Just saying.
We trust
We'll give
you.
it to Ben also then, or give it to, Ann, you're good too. Number 7, Barbara, did you go to Coopop by any chance? Or do you have any report on Coopop?
I don't have.
Mika, do you have any report?
I know one of the big issues that's coming on is related to lights at Acorn Hill Field.
Oh, well, yes.
That's one of the things that Coopop has been engaged in. They're working on a report to deliver to the Board of Selectmen at some later date.
Would you
But-
like our opinion on that at any
It would be appropriate,
point? Uh-huh.
I
so
think,
recreation as well.
if I might add, that 99% of the meeting was taken up with public speaking for and
Barbara?
against.
Barbara,
Gonna
your voice.
go
I'm
into
sorry.
Yep.
About 90% of the Coopop meeting was taken up with
Pros and cons.
pros and cons of public's input on pros and cons for those those lights.
And Mika, do you know when that determination is gonna happen? Like, if someone did some research in the next month here and they presented it next month, would that be timely enough to get our input in?
It's a process.
So it's gonna take more than a couple months?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
It's-
so
this
maybe
is
one
just-
of us can
it's
be
from-
involved.
From the Board of Selectmen standpoint, this is just kind of being introduced at this point. There was, at the time the fields were put in, there was an agreement made with the neighbors that there would not be lights, there would not be ATVs, and there would not be loudspeakers. You know, there were criteria that were mentioned that were supposed to be codified in the form of a ordinance. There was no ordinance, ultimately no ordinance actually passed. However, there is enough documentation to clearly indicate that the town made a commitment. So, you know, I only speak for myself on this, I don't speak for the Board of Selectmen on this, but from my perspective, the town made a commitment, that commitment would stand. That said, however, even if it was an ordinance, it could be changed, you know, depending on what the
That's
community
always
wants to
interesting.
do.
Right.
But the process that I'd like to see us follow is the same process that we would if there were an ordinance, because the commitment is there.
Okay.
So, and I've explained that to both sides so far, but we'll have it on our agenda for the 10th, but it'll be just kind of more of an introduction saying, hey, this is here now, we're gonna get some information from Coopop, Conservation, Recreation, and at some point in time, we'll have to start working toward a decision as to what happens here.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Has anyone else gone to any, Mika, other boards that they want to report on? Any other commission activities that we think are
I went to the
relevant?
last inland wetlands
Uh-huh.
a couple of weeks ago, and that was the property at 27 Beecher was talking about putting in a temporary bridge in order to move equipment in to do some removal of, some of the information that he sent us, actually, removal of invasive species and so on. They did not approve doing that and had further questions about it, and I believe there was a site visit planned as well to look at the wetlands and what it is, and there's still ongoing questions of and that was done under the farming application. There's still ongoing questions of how the farming application is laid over
Fits.
by the application for the apartment. So that was the last inland wetlands.
Got it.
There
Anybody
is
have
a
any
public-
questions?
Public meeting for that, though,
On the 17th, I think, yes. So, and that might be interesting for people to go to, I think, if anyone
Yep.
can go and listen.
I'll do
Will you be there? Okay,
So
Thank-
I listened to a little bit of one of the Board of Selectmen meetings, and there was one interesting thing that I wanted to report to everybody. So there's a really great development in the Lucy Street, project. And so I thought that was nice because it kind of ticks every box that we like to see in terms of housing from a conservation perspective. So this was an apartment complex. I'm not sure if it's age restricted or not, but it was sort of naturally affordable, and the developer the owner kind of didn't maintain it or whatever. I don't want to get into that, but for various reasons, but it was being taken over by a group called New Samaritan, who is a nonprofit group, and I think they're gonna deed restrict all 30 units.
Yes.
So this is sort of like everything we could ever want, right? I mean, in this project, it's it's high density housing in around where there's other high density housing in the business district. The whole thing is deed restricted affordable housing, and it's being managed by a nonprofit, and it's
and it's architecturally nice.
yeah, it's
It'll
very
move
nice,
on
and it's
through years
using an existing building or group of buildings to, to have these houses. So, this is sort of like a really big win, I think.
And I bet Mika really worked hard to
Yeah.
make that happen.
It's labor of love. They're good people who live there.
Oh, yeah,
And
right.
the condition of the facility itself has been declining, has been mentioned. The landlord felt keeping the rents low, keep the people in the apartments, but it doesn't leave a lot
Yeah.
for maintenance. So what you didn't mention, the only that I think is huge, is that in addition to all the other box it checks is that this comes with working with CHAFA in the Department of Housing. It comes with at least $2.3 million for rehabilitation of the building itself.
Wow.
So it's, we're at the tail end of it, we hope. We're working on a new lease. It'll be a new 60-year lease for New Samaritan. And we're working right now on, in order for them to not find themselves in the same situation as the previous landlord, they're looking for tax relief, which is usually the way these are done. And it is elderly. Ben, it is specifically elderly, not even age restricted, it's elderly.
Well, we should
I'm sorry, I
donate
think it's over 62.
100 the garden club could donate daffodils and make it a
So-
nice.
But where it's worked out, like you said, it's worked out so far as well, and that's like, please. It's worked out as well as we could have hoped, and it had a lot to do with a lot of the state organizations working with us. One of the things that was profound is not everyone there qualifies for the level of affordability that they would have, and it would be minimum 80%. But there's not a lot of them that don't qualify. Because of that, they agreed that they will not have to move anybody out. They can stay there until such time as they're moving naturally. And then when it's replaced, it'll be replaced with somebody who does. And
Qualifies.
that was also like a significant win from our perspective, just in terms of being able to make sure nobody's negatively impacted by something we're trying to do on a positive basis.
So they're over income.
They're over. Mhm.
That's the term overing. Cool. Thank you,
You're welcome.
both of you. That's
Yeah,
those
thanks.
are
That was
important.
a
And-
big win.
Thank you. That's.
Very exciting.
Yeah, that's good.
Any other reports on any?
I'll just,
Other-
a couple of things, because this group may be interested. The state we were granted a solid materials management grant of, believe it or not, $214,000. $17,000 of which is part of which is part of phase one. And the reason we went and we were pursuing this is because it's an education program. $17,000 goes toward educating our residents as relates to solid material management, and in this case, pay as you throw. And the programs that they're using, for example, in Guilford, Kent, and a number of other communities, that they have found to reduce the amount of solid waste significantly in these communities.
Great.
So that's our sustainability committee is taking lead on this, but it's something that I think the conservation
we would like to be involved.
kind of partner with and
So
be a
maybe we
part of.
can text, communicate with Diana and Hillary.
And only
How about
because of,
Ann? Do you want to communicate that we'd like to be involved and love them to come speak to us?
Do that.
That'd be great. Is that agreement with everybody that we connect more with sustainability around that?
also, Sharon, I just wanted to mention also the TPZ, based on having Sumita here. In case you didn't know, our town plan and zoning agency did
That's right.
indeed
I should've-
change the regs down in the business district to comply with what the state was
Oh, they-
requiring.
They have changed them.
Yeah, they did it. I have
voted
a
to
copy
change
of it right here
Yes.
for anyone who wants to look.
Yes,
Yes.
I would like to.
And I think they did leave it open to more possibilities of more changing it, and I think that they may not have looked at some of the overlay things that Susmitha's town, some of them aren't relevant, but some of them might be worth TP&Z thinking about a little more.
This is what I'll refer to as step one. And there was a deadline that was put in front of us, so we wanted to work toward attaining that, but there's much more work to be done.
Great, okay. And I was also at that meeting and found it.
Yes, no, that's right. You were-
Conservation easement on the Woodbridge Country Club property. So I have made contact with Brian Pines, and we'll have a meeting just to talk about the initial thoughts about what that would look like. We understand that the Woodbridge Land Trusts have a lot more access to some money and influence than town committees do. And I don't think that the conservation, the Land Trust is that informed about that yet, nor are we. And so it's a very beginning, kind of just trying to get a sense of where we want, what kind of work we want to do in that area. Do you have anything to add to that, Ben?
No, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. We just want to meet with them and just hear what they're interested in and
Have you
that
set
sort of thing.
has a meeting date been set?
No, not yet. Or maybe, yeah, I think we're going to go to their next meeting.
Yeah, whenever their next meeting is.
Yeah, I don't know when that is. And before Mika leaves, I went to this is new business, but I'm moving it up because it's sort of commission-related stuff. I went to a SCROG meeting with Mika where we heard about, they went to 3 different housing communities that had used LISC, L-I-S-C, funding for housing, and the one I went to was quite appealing and somewhat inspiring and very expensive, and maybe a possibility of what we could hope for in some of our development.
Liz, we've been working with Liz since we found out about them during one of our housing forums, and they're not developers. They help with financing, and they help secure the people who would be developers and managers of properties that would be fully affordable, and they're probably known for their complexes blending in with the community. So
Right, and they're also, it sounds like they very much understand a lot of the dynamics, and they're educated about them, and they can bring together possible investors and possible different parties that can work together and it's a long process, and it's a complex process. And I thought it was run quite well.
depressingly long.
And is the thinking that would be part of the country club
It could be.
developments, or
It could be.
business
It's
districts?
the complexes we saw. One was kind of in an area that would, in a sense, like the country club. It had a functional space next to it, a field, like it was near an athletic field. And then the second one we saw was a mixed-use arrangement in Essex. The 3 towns were Old Saybrook, Essex, and
Madison.
thank you, Madison. And each one was different in a different way. They were all units that if they had a for rent sign on there, anybody would go. No, you wouldn't shy away from it because you recognize it as being an affordable complex, which was wonderful. You know, that's the kind of thing you want. But they all kind of came about in different ways. They have an organization down on the shoreline called Hope that does a fantastic job. They don't come up to Woodbridge. So I told them we had a
They
lake, we had a
clearly
pond,
told
we had a pond. You know, so, but they don't come up this way.
I didn't realize that.
But it's, their
Hope
list
doesn't,
is,
but LISC does. LISC
will help us find the people to work with to do what we want. Currently, just so you understand, some of the properties that have been identified as potential use from a town property standpoint, in addition to the country club, is 312 Vernon Road. We've looked at the Forest Road, the theater lots. Those are probably the 2 most, the highest opportunity, if you will. But we're just kind of looking at it now to see if this really can be something that's feasible.
Great.
Okay. And next on our agenda is communication and website, and I think Ben and Marissa, you have some thoughts about that?
Yeah, sure. So I can talk about this briefly. So this has kind of been something we've been talking about for a while, but we haven't really made great progress on it. And I think we've kind of had these big visions, but I feel like maybe the way to move forward is just to do something very small and tangible. And so I talked to Marissa about maybe just, taking on this one task as like an introduction task. It should be very small. So I think the first thing that we can do to the website, and we've talked to Allison about this, who's also said it's pretty easy, is on the left-hand navigation bar. Right now, it just shows all the other commissions, but she said we can change that and put sort of like, sub-pages there,
Like
links
deep,
to
like
sub-pages.
the Deep Trail Grant,
Yeah, so we could have one for Deep Trails Grant, we could have one for Country Club, we could have, so I think our task is just to decide what those
So
sub-pages should be.
pages. We can
And-
always add to them, right, in the future?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
And, so this could be, Marissa, you could, maybe just come up with some things, well, we can talk about it, or why don't we come up with some now?
Yeah, I think that's
And
a good
then,
idea, because Marissa has.
And then you can maybe you could look at the website and just, see how that looks, and then, yeah, and then
Okay,
at some
well-
point we need to email Allison and she'll just do it for us.
Yeah.
So,
So Country Club of Woodbridge seems like a good one.
yeah.
DEEP Trail Grant with QR code seems like a good one.
Mhm.
That would have
Um,
the form and the, or as a link.
In the future, our voice and a little bit about our student volunteers would be a good one, or student participants.
The trail maps right now are like way down at the bottom of the page, and so having them being in a more prominent place up the top, I
Okay.
think would be
That would be good,
valuable.
I think the whole, and we might want to make a subtitle of a subtitle, but the whole Greenway
Oh, the
program
green,
or Greenway,
the green,
the Greenway of
Yeah, the
Woodbridge.
Yeah,
Greenway.
right, that would be good.
and also putting that,
And under that, the trails.
That would
I
be a
mean,
good
that-
place to, put the trails, so that the Greenway as a
and
prominent.
maybe under that, like Fitzgerald property, and then nesting boxes or something like that, or the, I don't know how you do nesting boxes, but also the Forest Resiliency Grant to start to let people know what you're
Yeah,
interested in that.
that's probably another good one, the Forest
Um,
Resiliency Grant.
And Friends of Conservation, please be in touch with us, and we could write a little blurb about
Yeah.
why we want to know interested people.
Yeah, well, yeah, and try to get more people to sign up.
They'll come
Yeah.
like herds.
Yes. That's what we're
We
looking
could go
for,
from
right?
36 to 37.
That's right,
So yeah, I mean, that seems like a good
yeah.
list to
Start
start
Maybe
with.
we should
Yeah.
have a place where some people can write in thoughts,
Yeah, that comments and suggestions.
comments or suggestions,
Yeah.
concerns.
Yeah, we could, so the thing is,
We'll never look at.
well, we have to just make sure that the website has that capability.
Good point.
Because it's sort of this like system that, Allison can like kind of drag things and put things places,
Well,
but
maybe
there's
my,
not.
my email address.
Yeah,
It'll never get seen,
I was
but
just gonna say.
Ben's or,
yeah, we could have a contact us.
yeah,
Once a
contact
month.
us
I mean,
with concerns, thoughts, or ideas.
I have sort of a thought, if
Oh,
it's
good.
okay. And you and I kind of discussed it when we met at your home.
Uh-huh.
But what if we had a tab that was like kind of simplistic for people, like what can I do, how can I help, and then maybe mention something about like composting, and then maybe having like a little post about like compostable materials or non-compostable, like maybe
Little
something.
educational stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
something that's accessible for most people that doesn't feel too daunting.
Uh-huh. With some
Just
good
a thought.
graphics.
But
yeah.
With some good graphics.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we could put beautiful fertile composting soil
Right.
and the flowers that it will beget.
Right.
I don't know. it's just a
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I think that this is a really good start, and we can look at it, and maybe someone can bring their computer and we can look at it next time.
And the how can I help can also include the Friends of Conservation.
Yeah,
So getting people to sign up for a contact list of we're doing invasive
You know,
removal or
also putting on articles of about septic systems or wells or anything like that would be really interesting too.
And even, another thing too, which I think could be easily integrated for people who enjoy gardening, but like rain gardens, to help conserve water.
Yeah, conservation, and we can
Yeah.
get sustainability to maybe chime in on
Yeah,
this.
it could be pollinator gardens to give
Right.
opportunity.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
All sounds good.
No, great.
Oh, good.
Great.
And
Okay.
let the town have another website.
I've just got this on the last item here of old business is the open space 490. When we have a little bit of a lull, I do think that we should think about that and think about people that have enough space that they might find it a tax advantage, and also they already have land they want to protect, and how.
What is 490?
It's the bill that, do you want to explain
It's-
it, Barbara?
It's I'm not sure whether it's a statute or what it is as far as legally is concerned, but what it really means is that if you have more land than your house lot, and I don't know at this point if there's a limit or a lower limit, a minimum, you can put in an application here in the tax office and get a discount on your property taxes, either if it's open space, farming, or forest. You can determine what it is. And open space is just land. I mean, it can be a
Just no
forest on it,
structures.
but it,
Right.
But it can't have a lot of structures on it, right?
Undeveloped land.
it can't, undeveloped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So that's, I think, a future focal point that would be useful.
And you get a
And
nice
with that-
tax break.
Yeah, and with that, actually, statutorily, we're supposed to identify lands that are available for purchase. And when Tim Austin was chair, he did a lot of it. There's a last part of it that we've never done that we should also put on a meeting in 2 years from now. No. I'm really not very good at it. But we should think about doing that, and maybe when some of these other issues have calmed down a little bit.
But once we compile the resources on 490, that could also be something that is.
Well, they
on
dovetail.
Our website.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if someone's saying, what is something I can do to contribute to conservation
Yeah,
in Woodbridge?
here's an application,
This is something I can
here's
do.
Yeah.
the
If you have
benefit.
3 acres or 5 acres
Yeah.
or 7 acres or
Yeah.
100 acres, you can.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
And I think the next item was new business, which was the SCROG part, which is the workshop that I went to that we've already discussed, because I wanted to get it in while Mika was still here. And updates and comments from anyone else?
I had some other new business.
Okay. Oh, other new business, great.
Another new business. And I wish Mika were here. As a representative from the Historical Society, I went to the last BOS meeting and presented an idea from, it's long been around, but it's finally trying to come to fruition, that the society has of putting up a roadside sign on the corner of Johnson and Ansonia Road, that really honors, well, is dedicated to the fact that Roger Sherman owned a farm there, nearly 165 acres, which is more than the size of the country club. And my vision has always been that it be a sign like the historic signs that are all over the state, the big, they really are aluminum with raised lettering, et cetera, et cetera. You can have them any color, and you can put anything on it you want to. When I talked to the Board of Selectmen about it, somebody suggested, and I agree, and so does my board now, that nobody is going to be able to read this sign because there's no pull-off, you can't stop. Now, somebody said people are going to be going 40 miles an hour. They aren't really, because they have to stop at that corner.
It stops.
They have to stop, or they're supposed to stop, but still they'll be speeding up or, taking off, whatever. So, the idea now has come up, and the reason I bring it up to the Conservation Commission is that we put the same sign, but make it very much more compact. Just say this at this site, the Honorable Roger Sherman once owned a farm while he was living in New Haven. And, you know, we haven't developed that statement, but a very short thing. And then inside the park, we put up another QR historic sign.
Oh, yeah.
And do
We have one of those signs still.
well, this is why I brought it up. Does the commission feel that this is an appropriate use of doing
Yeah,
another one and
The 15th one.
and making it the 15th one and changing all the paperwork for the badge?
We have that sign.
And
have
do we
two
have
extra
one
signs
still?
At the Public Works.
Oh, well, then it would be quite easy if the commission feels that this is a good 15th sign.
Shall we take a vote?
Maybe we should. I don't know.
What do you wanna propose it?
Okay, I move that we use the sign that is still available for the QR program as a sign with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, as a sign dedicated to Roger Sherman and his life around.
So can I ask a clarification?
Yes.
This is this discussion part of the,
Right.
okay, so I happened to listen to that part of the Board of Selectmen meeting, and it sounded like they were gonna support a second sign with like a lot of letters on it. So, you know, if that's the case, it seems like, I mean, I feel like a sign with the letters actually, like with the text actually on the sign is kind of nicer than having to pull out your QR, like your, so I mean, you know, could it be both, or it just seems like, I think a lot more people are gonna read it, and it's nicer to read it if you've got a sign with, that you don't have to like go to a,
Or the possibility to have a sign with a lot more and then have a QR and even,
Yeah, maybe they
you
could
can
be
write
both, but-
forever about Roger Sherman.
Well, that's
Yeah.
having the QR code on that sign.
On that
Yeah,
sign
that-
that says,
Yeah,
with-
but I
with
think
even
a
more
paragraph or
information.
two would be,
yeah.
it's such an important thing.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I,
And it sounded like you had a nice write-up already that would nicely go on a
done it
sign.
over and over, yes.
So I guess we're very much in favor of sign, we're just wondering if more written words that someone can scan in 30 seconds
Mhm.
versus getting out their phone and stopping.
Yeah, because a lot more
Or- and
people are gonna
having
read
both.
it.
Maybe not versus,
Or having
have it
both,
in
and
addition
then-
to.
Yeah.
Having
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
QR
both-
for even,
both
for
would be
further
good.
But not
information.
necessarily using one of our leftover
Right.
signs and having a bigger sign.
Mhm.
Right, well, that's a possibility too.
Okay.
I can withdraw my motion.
So I think that the only question about that is if there was funding for the bigger sign. 'Cause I also listened to it, and it seemed like there was, the recommendation was more words being away from the road. That seems
Yes.
to have consensus. But I didn't hear consensus on who was paying for said more words.
Would the Historic Society pay for that?
So,
The Historic Society intends certainly to contribute, and we have asked if the Board of Selectmen will share in the expense of creating the sign, and it's up to me to come up with what it's gonna cost. Now, obviously, if you make the sign that I was envisioning will be anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000, depending upon how much wording you have in it and how big it is, because it can be any size. That would be greatly reduced for that outside sign, shall we say. Creating a sign, as you all are talking about, is not that expensive. So I don't think it would greatly increase any cost. I mean, any possibly envisioned costs. And we did certainly leave who would pay for very open, depending upon how we finally decided what to do.
Well, do people feel comfortable that we have an extra sign if there's no funding and nothing else happens, we're willing to have that sign be used, but we do think that it's a better idea to have a more blatant written sign, and we're fully in support of the idea.
my motion can be amended to exactly that?
You get that, Kath?
No, I didn't hear her. I cannot hear Barbara at all tonight. I'm waiting to watch the video tomorrow.
The air conditioning's delightful.
It's not even that.
I'm sorry.
So, what I understand Barbara's, or what I think we've come up with, is that we're fully in support, we have to take a vote, but I want to offer our full support for signage, both a less wordy one so it doesn't distract traffic, and a more involved one that also has a QR code in the park, near that new parking area. And second to that, if there's no funding that appears, we do have an extra sign like all the others that we could utilize with just a QR code.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
So who's seconding it?
I'll second that motion.
And I'll re-listen tomorrow.
And you can make it more succinct. All in favor? Okay, passes with great gusto. Oh, I also gave everyone a strategic plan. Did we look at that at all? I didn't put that on the agenda because it came after, I'd written most of the agenda, but,
Did not.
I don't think we have to scrutinize it right now, but did people look at it, and is there anything they want to say about it?
Yeah, goal 4 seems to be very relevant to the work of this commission. Fortify stewardship of open space, wetlands, climate resiliency, and other natural capital. And there's interesting language in tactic B around the ecological contribution to the greater region. And so I look forward to learning more about this strategy, but it seems like there's an option of either kind of going forward as a town and kind of meeting the state requirements on the town level versus on the region level. And so if we were to move forward with the regional approach, then some of the initiatives that we've started on the conservation front, the forest resiliency in Alice Newton, the QR code linking conservation with historical narratives, I think could be a strong position for us being a leader in the region on ecological contributions.
Yeah, and that makes me think of something that I had thought of, is that maybe we could create a little fact sheet, because I was reading some of the facts, and like 1 acre of wetlands absorbs 1.5 million gallons of water and slowly disperses it, or this many trees create oxygen, and sort of maybe, I don't know if any of us want to start collecting some of those facts that we each think of for the next month, you know, this many pollinators in a field help, you know, an estimated so many, you know, bees, or, you know, just a way to bring home the importance of undisturbed land to
Yeah, and also how the conservation that we are doing in Woodbridge impacts the surrounding.
yeah, well, that's what I think that
Um,
could be tied
so
in with all those
I'm
facts.
thinking specifically of the West River,
Uh-huh.
and the conservation that is being done in that region and how that impacts downstream communities.
Well, the whole point of the number of reservoirs that are in the town, even though they are owned and maintained by the Water Authority, it's a huge amount of
Ecological benefit.
assistance, et cetera, for downriver
Which
places.
is another reason it should not necessarily be determined that we have so much extra space,
Right.
because we have
Exactly.
those, regional water authority, that's shared benefit, and we need to have open space separate from that, because that's, but I think some people writing about that would be helpful, so that it was clear and it could be put in, I don't know if they'd be open to put it in the strategic plan or a subtitle in that.
I don't, this may not be the point to bring it up, but it just occurred to me, at the meeting or the celebration or whatever, the drummer or the lead man for the drummer and his cohort, who actually is an artist, actually come from Hamden, and they were so thrilled by this whole idea of these QRs that they want us to go to Hamden, the other side of West Rock, and introduce the same thing
It'd be
to
fun.
around there.
It'd be fun.
And
So,
start a consulting business.
Right.
Or
How to monetize our work, our free work.
create the templates so that
Right.
other towns could follow our leads.
Yeah.
I think that's a regional leadership that we could play.
Mike, what a great idea. Who could be good at doing that?
If I find someone, I'll let you know.
Okay, good.
May I bring some scientific data about the impact of lights and noise pollution as it pertains to Acorn Hill? Like, how could I help with that, I
As a
guess?
commission
I would be
member.
interested
Uh-huh.
in that, but.
Did you want to do a little research for next month?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Will that be soon enough, though, with the meeting on 6/10?
I think
I
they're
mean,
just
I-
introducing it.
Okay,
I
okay,
think that,
to the
okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
you could definitely
It's
seem to
been-
suggest that
it's
this
been-
was not going to be a
He did
It's
say
been
it was a
finalized
process, yes,
project
yes,
anytime
fair,
soon.
fair, yeah.
It's been discussed in Coopop for several meetings now,
Okay,
and I think they're getting very close to submitting their thoughts about it.
okay, well, we should get closer to submitting ours. So
Yes.
why don't you present it to us, and why don't we see what we think when we hear what you have to say?
Marissa, do you have, like, there's well, it's not called Woodbridge Fathers League anymore, whatever it's called, the baseball league.
Bethwood.
Put together a PowerPoint or whatever presentation that has, from their perspective, what would be in the lights. Have you seen that?
no,
Okay, so I can send you that link.
could you, yeah, that'd be
um,
helpful.
And a link from the group that's rather actively spearheading, not
And
putting
it might be
lights
good
on.
to listen to the last Coopop meeting, the tape of it, because
We are giving you a lot of time.
the pros and cons were very
Heated.
well presented.
Yeah, I'm also wondering whether this is something we want to wade into. It's not. It's
really
not
isn't
traditional.
conservation.
Yeah, it's not really
That's
land
not what it's-
conservation. It has
But
some
we leave us say
implications.
it could be
Animals.
conservation, but that's not
You know,
what
maybe
the,
what would, sorry.
that's not what the discussion is about. It's not really about conservation.
Mhm.
But we could make a statement about conservation, do you think? We can have Marissa work on it.
I think we
can
could
decide.
point out something about like the biodiversity and, mating and circadian rhythms and the.
We should
This is
add
something
that
that
to
we've- sorry.
a larger, sorry. I've always thought that the 70 or 40 lights that the the fire department has is a little excessive. And maybe we could make it a more general thing about lighting too, and being attentive to
This
excess light.
This was something that has come up before when talking about the country club and the proposed development there. So I think it could be a more general statement about the impact of lighting on
Conservation
surrounding
impact.
ecology. That could be used for all subsequent development.
What do you think of that, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd want to know how much they're going to be on.
Right.
Because they're only going to be on when they're playing bass. If they're on every single night until midnight, then that's a big effect. But if it's every other week
The-
for 2 hours, then,
And that was
you know.
part of the point, that they really
Right.
are not. It kind of amazed me, the little that they want to use them, the few hours that they want to use them, and the expense of installing these for a couple of hours.
Although once
A
they're
week.
there,
Yeah,
it's a lot
see.
easier to have them on for longer. So,
All it takes is
We have
somebody
to-
forgetting to hit off.
yeah, we have
Right.
to think
So-
about that.
But also-
So maybe for our next meeting, if we can have that presentation to review and any material that you put together, and then we can have a more informed discussion.
Learn more about lighting, which I think is a key feature for migration and habitat, and
Yep.
it's like in the
Mhm.
realm of pollinators, so I think we can
Absolutely.
start being an advocate for that and even share our information with sustainability so they can use that information. What do you think, Kat?
She doesn't like it.
I was going with what Ben was running with, but then Ben changed his mind.
Well, I mean, lighting is important, but
But
yeah. Well, I mean, I think we should talk about it more. I think it's worth
Yep.
it.
All right, and anything other things people want on the agenda next month?
I have something to sort of think about. I'm not certain that it's agenda worthy, but as it pertains to the tree work that's being done with UI and just in terms of like land use, one of the strategies that a friend of ours had implemented, they had their road deemed a scenic road so that certain aspects of it couldn't be touched. I'm just wondering if that's something that we could think about. I think Amy Morella and myself had talked a little bit about certain areas being designated as parks
Which
as
road
well
was this?
to protect westward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We
Yeah.
were involved
did
with
it.
that.
Oh, were
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
Oh,
we were
okay.
the-
Excuse me.
yeah.
You probably read
Yeah,
my
so
letter.
we
too.
think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay, great. I mean, I'm just thinking of how can we parlay that concept, I don't know. Yeah. It's just a thought off the cuff, but.
It was really, we had to kind of get all the neighbors together, and yeah, we sort of had to send
have-
letters to everyone, and the hardest thing was even getting addresses for all the neighbors,
Sure.
Because that was
Getting the
surprisingly
whole
hard.
list.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then
a lot of roads don't quite strike people as that scenic, so they might
Mhm.
be harder to.
Yeah. Maybe.
But if we had thought of another road,
Mhm.
it's one of the goals, it was one of the goals in the POCD, and so we can think about that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good idea though. I mean, it was a process that was successful, so we can, if it makes sense, we can do it elsewhere.
Exactly.
Well,
We can,
it had a lot to do with,
the cherry trees,
yes, but with Rod
yeah.
jumping in on it.
Yeah,
With
the
that,
neighbors.
sorry, could you s-
Rod,
One of the neighbors was very instrumental in
Oh.
making it happen.
Yeah,
I
so
see.
so that's a big
reaching
thing
out
is
to
you have to
the
get the
rest of
neighbors
the
involved.
I
neighbors.
see.
But neighbors might want to
Yeah,
be
I mean, a
involved.
lot of neighbors want to be involved.
Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to bring up? Valerie looks almost out the door.
Larry had a hip surgery on Tuesday.
Oh, no.
Wish him well.
Yeah, you're moving well.
I think we should plan a potluck for some time, maybe in September meeting.
So we have another month to talk about
Yep,
that.
that we do. So, does anyone want to make a motion?
I move, we adjourn.
I second it.
Good going, Val.
8:06.